Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at the brand new Civivi Knives Merit. If you like super slicey knives like I do, stick around because this one's probably going to be for you. This one absolutely blew me away. So this is a nice medium-sized knife coming in at 7.62 inches overall. It has a 3.28 inch drop point blade of 14C 20-in steel. One of my favorite budget-in steels, especially for a stainless. This version has a nice black wash finish. I think it's a black wash PVD coating, and it holds up fairly well. The price on the Merit ranges from $50, like this one right here, and then all the way up to $72, the one with the Damascus blade and the Ivory G10. They also have a micarta option that will run you $52. This one has a nice row of effective jimping there. It definitely grips the thumb nicely. You have a needle-like tip there, great for piercing task. And this could be a fairly versatile blade. To do drag cuts, you can use that belly. You're not going to really want to use the tip because you're going to have to come up pretty high. It's going to be second nature just to hurry up and go through with the belly. This one has an oversized sharpening choil. The plunge starts thickening up right here. So you should have tons of sharpening life before it'll widen up at the heel. This one has some fantastic blade geometry. So you have extremely thin stock. This is 0.08. That's a good bit thinner than a Benchmade bug out. So thin stock alone already should allow it to slice fairly well. On top of that, you have a full flat grind with Civivi's nice and thin geometry coming down to around 14 thousandths behind the edge. So this one should be a slicing machine. Let's find out. Yeah, this one came with a fantastic edge, and I'm going to say right now, if you like an extremely slicey knife, nice and lightweight, and a nice full-size knife, you know, it's not big, it's not large by any means, but it's a nice medium-sized knife. This is one of the sliciest Civivis that I've tested that I can even recall. This is the first slice through this cardboard. I had the biggest grin ear to ear because of how it just felt like I was slicing through air, or it felt like styrofoam or something. Now, it's a fairly comfortable grip. It's not a super thick handle or anything, but you know, I was able to get a good bit of force. Now, I did feel a little bit of flex in the scales just whenever I'm pushing hard, squeezing the scales pretty hard, but nothing where my hands sit or really poking, prod me or anything. I could feel the top of the clip, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Now, this is where I saw that it had a lot of bites to the edge, and whenever a knife has bite and you have excellent geometry like this one with that thin blade stock, full flat ground, it's going to perform so well. I can't put into words on how easy this half-inch sisal rope was for me to cut. I mean, y'all know how much I despise this test, and how it can really either cause blisters everywhere or it can be very uncomfortable. But yeah, whenever you have a higher tip drop point like this, you're going to have more belly. So the slicing motion cuts and the push cuts are going to be fantastic on a flat cutting surface. That's where they're really going to excel. You can't, it's very difficult to use the tip to do a drag cut. You'd have to almost sit at a 90-degree angle. So if you're going to do a drag cut, you can use that belly, drag it through, no problem. But yeah, so far so good. This is just performing on another level. I hope we see more thin, slicey knives like this from Civivi. You know, they used to do a lot of these back in the day. They would do these thin, full flat grinds, and they would do the thin, hollow grinds. We just don't see them as often as we used to. Now, they all have great geometry to them. I'm not saying they don't. I just mean like some of them are even better than others. But none of this material, even with this black wash blade, none of it caused any drag. It just blasted through this like never before. I mean, of course, it's sped up, but y'all should have seen, even in normal time, how fast I did these tests. Yeah, I could do this all day, every day. Come on, Civivi, give us some more just like this. Fantastic job. All right, let's check that edge. Still feels like it's got a decent edge. Got one little hang up there. And by that tip, yeah, it's got a few small hang ups. I could probably strap it back. Let's see. Let me feel it. Hold on. Yeah, I got a hang up here and a hang up right there. So I could probably strap the rest of it back and can get a nice edge on it. I'll probably sharpen it up after I finish this. Now let's take a look at the deployment action of this knife. You have a dual deploying knife with a flipper tab and thumb studs. The flipper tab, if you look at the top of it, it's about at the top of the pivot where you'd want to see it. So to do a light switch, you pull it back, it comes out nice and fast. And then if you want to load up on it, they do have some jumps up top right there. You can, and it's going to come out a little bit faster. But for me, the light switch is the most comfortable. Then you have dual thumb studs that are accessible on both sides. I mean, fantastic job. They did a good job of dialing in this detent for both actions, whether you want to do the flipper or the thumb studs. Reverse flick, fantastic. And if you want to use it on the left side, you can easily do that as well. Excellent job. Civivi, Send, Cut, Weave, they usually do a fantastic job when it comes to the deployment action of their knives. Now, this one is not going to be a free dropper because it's got a very light blade. It is riding on caged ceramic bearings with a ceramic detent ball. It gives it a nice smooth action, but like I said, not a fall shut action. That's not something I'm worried about. Let's close it up. Take a look at the handle area. So I have the Peel Ply G10 version, green there. Nice chamfer going all the way around so you don't have any sharp spots anywhere that you don't want them to be. You got 3 little lines milled in there, I guess, for some flare. You have a countersunk Civivi logoed pivot there and countersunk body screws. Torx TA construction throughout except for these 2 pocket clip screws. They are T6. Not the biggest deal in the world. You don't have to remove that pocket clip. I prefer this deep carry clip than any of the other ones that Civivi does. I find they function really well. I like the look of it. And you only have this little small hole. I hate whenever you have like a hole right here. It always hurts my hand. I like the fact that they kept it in the center of the scales. That way this portion shouldn't bother you in your grip, depending on how big your hands are. Your G10 scales are slightly shadow boxed from the stainless steel liners, just meaning that the liners are a little bit proud, sticking out from the G10. They are nice and rounded, so they're not uncomfortable at all. You have flow-through constructions, 2 hourglass standoffs, and a lanyard post back here. So they didn't put it, I'm glad they didn't put an extra hole. Just keep it a lot cleaner looking. Just put, if you want a lanyard, you can tie it to the little post. They were able to keep the weight down really well due to the heavy skeletonization on the top and the bottom liner. Hopefully y'all can see that right there. Tons of pocketing there to bring down the weight to 2.95 ounces. I think that is fantastic for the size knife you're getting. That's well under the ounce and inch that some people care about. During all my testing, the ergos were good for me. I could feel this portion of the pocket clip and this, but it wasn't to where it was like, I didn't find it to be a hot spot. Just whenever I'm squeezing the knife really hard. Another thing that I realized when I was squeezing this one really hard is that you'll start to feel the scales flexing a little bit. It's not an issue. It wasn't disengaging the lock or anything. Just something I wanted to note because I could feel, whenever I'm really bearing down, I could feel these flex just a little bit. So I would be cautious if that's something you do care about. I would not go with the micarta variant because it's probably going to flex even more because micarta is not as rigid as G10 is. But other than that, there's no crazy trolls or anything. My medium-sized hands fit perfectly here. I got a little bit left over. Should fit large hands just fine. I don't know about XL hands, but nice and comfortable. In this grip, it's comfortable, but you will feel that flipper tab a little bit, and the reverse grip is okay. I mean, you got this portion to rest your thumb, and you have the flipper tab to act as a guard. So if you need to stick this into some wood to do some feather sticks or something, you could do that. The lockup on this one, it's hard for me to see. It looks like it's about 60, maybe 70% or so. Access to the lock bar is good because this choil comes down lower than the actual lock bar. You do have some texture there. I don't tend to like the texture. I find it to be a little uncomfortable. Not so much with this one. It's pretty easy for me to get my thumb in there. And if I want to use this portion, I can do that also. The lockup on this one, rock solid. Now I can flex side to side just because you got that thinner blade, but no movement in the actual pivot and no fear of this disengaging at all. Now for some quick size comparisons. It's in the middle of the Ontario Rat 1 and 2, much more similar to the Rat 2. Next up, it's a little smaller than the Civivi Cogent, and it's a little bit bigger than the Civivi Elementum 2. Lastly, it's a little bit smaller than the Civivi Cetus, and it's almost identical in length to the Civivi Socoke. Now, being that no knife's perfect, let's go over some nitpicks and complaints. I think it would have been nice to extend the jimping a little bit further. Not something that really bothers me. I know some people love their jimping. It grabs my finger perfectly where it's at, but it could have came out a little bit further. Now, my personal preference, I prefer a lower tipped drop point, at least in line with the center of the scales. That way, it's a much more versatile knife. However, this one's still a versatile knife. It just depends on your preference. If you're looking for more belly, then you'd want this particular version of a drop point. Of course, T8 clip screws would be nice as well, and insetting that clip into the G10 would be nice, but I've never had any issues with my pants getting caught up because they do a good job of rounding the front portion of that clip. And maybe thickening up the G10 just a little bit so you don't have the flex. It may not be something you ever notice, but whenever I'm squeezing this one really hard, if you're bearing down, pushing into something, you probably will feel that. It wasn't terrible or anything, but whenever you really squeeze down, that's flexing. You can kind of feel the top of this pocket clip and the pocket clip right here. So, it just depends on what you're buying this knife for. So if none of those things that I talked about were deal breakers for you, and you're looking for an extremely slicey, affordable knife that I think it looks nice, it's easy to carry, it's nice and lightweight, then I can highly, highly recommend the brand new Civivi Merit. Did anybody else pick up one of these? If so, let me know what you think about yours. And I truly hope we see some more of these incredibly slicey blades coming from Civivi like they used to do back in the day. More of those deep hollow grinds and the thin blade stock, thin grinds. It just, there's nothing like it. This one sliced so well. I'm going to put my own edge on it. I'm probably going to lay this edge bevel back. I don't know what they have it set to, but I'll probably lay it back to 17 degrees. I doubt it's at that. And it's going to be a slicing machine. So that's going to do it for today's video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave those down below and I'll do my best to get back with you. If you're interested in picking up the Merit, I will have it linked down below in the description. I hope every one of y'all is having a fantastic day. Until next time, keep those blades sharp, smile more, pay.